Hello and welcome all to the channel. Today I am taking a look at all that economic goodness over the last month. Now, at the beginning of the month I was rather nervous because there wasn't much activity. I was there playing Dune Imperium Uprising. That's right, I do occasionally play non-economic games, and I was having a right blast of that one, and there wasn't much buzz out on the Geek or anything. But then all of a sudden 2 weeks later there was an influx of Kickstarters, crowdfunding and all sorts of games I had played. So to begin with then, we are going to take a look at some crowdfunding hotness and goodness. So what do we got first then? We've got Craft Wagon Age of Engineering, a game that I played several years back, and this is a kind of re-implemented, revised edition which looks fabulous. You can see the cover art here, it looks super. Now this one is essentially the same game. You are developing these cars back from the early 1900s, you're putting engines in them, you're trying to build your research so you can go around this little racetrack faster. And I'll chuck up a few images of the original, which you can see were rather blue and the borders rather basic, but it still was a fantastic game. Now this one, you can see the board here. Wow, it's a big change. You've got a lot of colours, the actual track you're going around is a bit bigger, and the little cars are coloured as well, so lots more to like it. It really pops out from the main board. But essentially, yeah, you're doing the same stuff. You've got limited space on your player board to take engines, to take cars, and you're trying to place these out and choose the right price, and you're competing against other players to be competitive. So when these people buy them, you are getting the right price, and you're going around the track to get the most out of that, and the best speed and improvements out of the cars. But you've got this lovely action selection where you're going around this kind of nice cog here and all these various actions, and the last player will go. So if you go shooting ahead to get one of those actions you really need, everyone else might take their time and make the most of the actions that you have skipped. And I really enjoy this type of action selection mechanism. So lots to like in this one. Now in terms of when it is out, it's actually on crowdfunding right now, and it's due to finish on the 6th of April. So yeah, loving the board, I'm loving the look of the actions there, and as I say, it looks like a big improvement from the original. Okay, next up for all you 18xx fans, we have 18 Espana here. Now this one I spotted recently, and again this one is currently on crowdfunding. It's successfully passed, and it's due to finish very soon, the 4th of April. Now there's lots to like on this one. There's loads of private companies, loads of public companies. It looks like you've got some kind of 50-50 split as well with the revenue from those, and you have to earn certain goals and bonuses before you can achieve and take more revenue in. So some subtle differences here. Now the actual map as well, you've got this south area, the Iberian Peninsula or Gorge, and then you've got these mountain passes which you can take charge of to access the northern sector as well, which I can't recall the exact name, but the trains differ. So it's the typical 18xx game. It's going to play a good length of time, 180 to 240 minutes. It says it 2 to 6 players as well, and it's the typical, you got your operating rounds, your stock rounds, and you're trying to make the most money running these rail companies. So you're into that genre, go and have a look at this one. I am really intrigued by that. Next then, we have a game which featured highly on my anticipated games for 2024, and this is Algae Inc. Now I've been watching some videos out there, and the more I watch on this, the more I am enjoying what I see. Now essentially you are taking charge of a kind of sector within this Algae Inc. company, and you're trying to make the best of one of these divisions, and you're taking a certain product. You've got a bit of asymmetry with what your player board does, not loads but just a little bit, and you are trying to essentially prove yourself and make the most money and make your division the best. You've got this kind of interesting exporting to this sort of Europe looking map. You've got these actions you're picking, and you're kind of going up this track and you're picking between the two, and then it's taking you off on a tangent as to what you can do later on. But I've seen that there's options to mitigate this. If you've kind of gone down a path and you need a certain action, there's ways around that. But the actual theme of it and how it all looks, it just really looks interesting. I've not quite seen anything like this. It's reminding me a little bit from what I've sort of watched. Something like Autobahn, a completely different theme, you know, that's about motorways in Germany. But in terms of that challenge of making your connections around this board and the map and the way the actions choose, it just felt a little bit like that. I've no idea if it is, but, you know, first impressions. So, yeah, essentially it's 2 to 4 players, 90 to 120 minutes, and it's a heavy complexity, this one. From what I've gathered, it's 4+ rating so far, and this is equally on crowdfunding at the moment, and it's due to finish on the 30th of March, so literally get there right away if you want to have a look at this one. And just a little bit more description on it: you're hiring staff, optimizing your processing line, and you're keeping a close eye on what your colleagues are doing. You have to make those crucial decisions to decide to free up space on your science board, and you're unlocking these engineer tiles. You've got the usual hiring staff to give you, you know, better effects, building your engine, choosing the right options, but just a very interesting theme, this one, and I'm really looking forward to giving this one a go. Up and next then, another one. We've got loads of activity now. We've got Micro and Moonshine. So we featured Speakeasy on last month's video. So we've got something that looks a little bit lighter, a little bit more compact in its offering here. You are building an empire of forbidden spirits. How familiar does that sound? And you're hiring a skilled crew, producing high quality moonshine and establishing those relationships with speakeasies once again. Now, every decision matters, it says. You're recruiting the right crew members, managing your resource, and laundering your hard-earned money at just the right time. Now, this one plays 1 to 4, so solo option. Let's see what happens there. 45 to 90 minutes. So I like the look of this one. There's not many components to it, and you've got, you know, all these little wooden pieces here, some nice cards. It just looks like a really small package. You know, I've mentioned previously, I've played that 1923 Cotton Club, and I like that. I'm not personally looking to invest sort of 3-4 hours into a big old Lacerda type game myself, but maybe this will hit the spot. And if you're into that whole, you know, contraband and the mafia and what have you, then take a look at this one. And it is not actually on crowdfunding just yet, but keep an eye out. I'll hopefully update you when it does. The next game then, which is called Trade and Triumph, which again is on crowdfunding now, and it's due to finish the 11th of April. Now, this one caught my attention because it had a kind of slightly fantasy type vibe to it. The cards, it's got gorgeous artwork, very minimalist board, but you've got these kind of 3 decks of cards, and you're choosing your path along this board, and you're going to go down different routes. And it seems fairly simplistic as you go down one route, you get back to the main center, and you're trading goods, you're getting money, and you're trying to get these into VPs. Doesn't seem too much depth to it, but I just like the look of it in the cards, and how you've got these sort of kings and queens and this old age fantasy type vibe to it. Next up then, we have a game called City of Tricks, which is basically says, do you like trick taking and a train game? So it's got this kind of 18xx type vibe, and it's a deep financial strategy game, it says. So 3 to 5 players. You're looking on the heavier side, 75 to 150 minutes here, and you'll have to play a hand of cards this time to obtain the resources you need to make the companies in which you've invested in flourish. And then the game unfolds over 3 years, divided into these 3 phases. So you're playing this trick round, you're winning those cards, and they'll be used in the following 2 phases. So you'll have your operating rounds to operate your trains, and then you'll have a stock round as well. So typical flow of an 18xx game, but you've got this interesting twist here of trick taking at the beginning. So I'm quite excited to see what this can do with that genre. The art style is a bit quirky. It looks, you know, like artwork you'd expect several years ago, 10 years in the hobby maybe, sort of computer generated things just slapped on. But hey, it's early days, and it's a train game. Most train games don't look the most appealing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what this one brings. Doesn't seem to have an actual player board looking here, just seems to have a load of cards. So yeah, maybe the board is built as you go along. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that one. Next up then, we have Yuchamin, if I can pronounce that right. And this one is due on crowdfunding on the 29th of March. So it is starting then. And I like the art style on this one. It's a 3 to 4 player game. Says it takes 60 to 80 minutes. Not really sure on the complexity just yet. But basically, you're a leader of a trading company in the city, and your goal is to become, behind the scenes, the ruler at the center of logistics. You'll transport materials bought upstream and downstream and utilize this accumulated wealth to strengthen your company's ships and expand by hiring new employees. Now, not loads on this. There is a rule book on the Board Game Geek. It's in Japanese, so not much use as yet. I like these images I've just sort of shown you, this industry and this dock and what have you. And the actual main player board here, you can see, sort of gives me vibes of Navigador, which is a fantastic Matt Gertz game. Maybe it's got a little bit of Panamax in there. You've had East India companies out in the last year. So, a few games like it. I do tend to like these kind of shipping games and turning resources into, wealth. So, yeah, I'm intrigued by this one. And, yeah, not a lot on it as yet. But, yeah, looking forward to seeing more on this one. Up next then, we have a game that is due out at the UK Games Expo, which is not far off, and it's called Windmill Valley. Now, at first, I was a little bit put off by all the tulips on the cover. I'm not a big fan of, but this one, having watched a couple of videos, looks fantastic. And I'm probably edging this to do extremely well this year and probably be, a favourite for most people. So it's a 1 to 4 player game. It says it plays up to 90 minutes. The playthroughs I've been watching have been sort of 2.5 hours. There's this kind of interesting choice of actions over these cogs. You're developing these windmills across the board. You're getting a host of benefits. You're trying to keep the water levels in check. You've got tulips coming out. And it's just basically farming tulips and making the most out of this board here. Now, you have got hiring workers. You've got lucrative contracts. You're going to let your blooming fields, it says, make your competitors green with envy. So the usual type of farming-esque type things. Now, the board had me intrigued. It looked rather colourful, but actually, when you get down to it, it kind of works nicely. You're expanding out these windmills. If people are utilising, the path back to the centre here, then you're actually getting some coinage out of that. So I like what I see. Looking forward to seeing more. And as I say, it's out of the UK Games Expo. No activity just yet. Up next, then, I saw this informative slide. Can't remember where I saw it, but Acquire 60th anniversary edition. I can't quite believe it's 60-year-old game, this, folks. And I actually played it this month as well before I even saw this note. So what a fabulous game, folks. For those of you not familiar with this, you need to play it if you are an economic board game fan, because essentially you're taking charge of these hotel conglomerates and you're placing this kind of Scrabble-esque type vibe where you're placing these tiles out, say E3, and then if it connects up to something, you might form one of these hotel chains, and then you're buying shares. And at the right time, you maybe have these mergers and you decide, right, am I going to merge my shares 2 to 1? Am I going to sell out? And you're just trying to make the most money. And this board is a competitive warfare as it gets tighter and tighter, and companies are going to either be safe or they're going to take over others. And you're just trying to make the most wealth. So I'm intrigued what they do with this 60th anniversary edition. It says here you got money upgrading to Acquire themed poker chip style, which sounds good. I've already got my own poker chips, but hey, let's see what they do. You've got new components with the theme drawstring bag, if that's enough to drag you in, a removable stock and HQ tray, and it's got some player powers, which I haven't actually tried in one of the original ones. Hasn't been seen since the 1995 version. Upgrades to the game board and the HQ building. So coming soon, October 2024, which is probably S and then 2 to 6 players, 2 hours, but $100 retail price. Let's see what we get for our money here. Right then, some random economic goodness. What have we got then? So I spotted this. Now, I'm not a massive Harry Potter fan. I've watched all the series, I love them, but this was a Diagon Alley version of a Chinatown. Well done to whoever made this. It looks fantastic. And if you're a big Harry Potter fan, then hey, go and bother these guys and see if you can get the artwork and do something similar. But what this raised for me was a question over Chinatown. Now, I love Chinatown. It's a fantastic game. Works really well with the right group if everyone likes negotiating. But it made me think, what more could you do with this theme, this board? Someone's made it into Diagon Alley. We've already had a waterfall park as well, which I've not tried. They've done a very different sort of theming of it. You've got this whole theme park, obviously, and waterfalls. I haven't played it. It looks a bit garish for me and a lot going on. But I'm guessing the same principles apply. You're trying to get certain spots and plots and you're negotiating to work hard. But hey, I'm very intrigued as to what else you could do with Chinatown. Have you made adjustments to your game? For me, I'd love to see an updated version, you know, with maybe a city centre and certain businesses and just more, you know, feels like real life. Because Chinatown, sometimes you're like, a florist or, you know, whatever else it may be. And you know, just maybe a slightly better feed might make this more approachable to more players and, you know, actually make this game available as well, because at the moment it's like, you know, gold dust trying to find a copy of Chinatown. But yeah, that really intrigued me that there's different versions out there. Right then, games played. What have I played? So I've already alluded to Acquire. I've managed to play Caravanserai, which is just behind me somewhere. And this is a game I got sent recently. And essentially, you are this kind of this sort of errand boy. You're going around the markets. You're trying to make these small profits, and it's quite a simple one. You're moving. You're doing an action. You then may move again by rolling this dice, and you may move up to the dice pip. You then do another action if you want, and you're going around the board. You're trying to trade. You're trying to borrow, and you're just getting those resources. You can fit them in your capacity if you can, and just trying to make the most money. Now, there's a really interesting player board here with like your purse and your credit worthiness. I really enjoyed how you're trying to balance this and get, you know, the right money at the right time to get the right resources, but you can only have so much, and then you're turning it into this Durham for VPs. So yeah, there's some really nice aspects to this game. I think if you like something like Byzance or Istanbul, then come and have a look at this game as well. So I will be bringing a video onto the channel soon, and kind of reviewing some thoughts from me on this one. Next up, I played Earth 23 at Tipping Point, which again is due out on crowdfunding sort of late April, I've been told. I will be bringing you an overview and a kind of solo playthrough as well. It plays excellently with solo, and that'll be hitting the channel just before that crowdfunding. Now, this one is all about running your nation, and you're working cooperatively. I did feature it on my anticipated games for Essen 2023, and I'm so happy I've managed to play it and tell you guys it's a really solid game. This, and you don't come across many co-op games in the sort of economic genre. But essentially here, you've got these project cards in your hand, and you're playing them out. Again, everyone's working together, but you've got your own nation and your own project cards. Now, you're playing them down to try and defeat these disasters and put influence out there. But it's not just as simple as that. You have to play certain actions and certain cards at the right time to turn some of these other cards that are on the board to be able to put influence on them, to then defeat these disasters. Because if you don't do that in time, these disasters are going to put this pollution onto this seesaw, and this seesaw, if it ever goes all the way down to the pollution side, you all lose. But if you manage to fill the prevention side, which can be achieved by putting these various project cards out, then you all win. So the project cards really are up to date. I love the artwork. It's very fitting with how the world is at the moment, you know, climate change and all these sort of geopolitical incidents going across the world, and there's a lot to like here. I've played it solo as well, and I'm looking forward to what they sort of do to differentiate some of these nations and some of the player characters as well, just to add a little bit more flavour, which they've told me they are going to do. And running the nation itself is really fun. You're going up these different areas, and there's synergy bonuses, and you get adjacency bonuses as well, depending on which area you've built. It's very thematic. You know, you start developing your house in area too much, and actually you'll be adding more pollution, and it's so satisfying. You're working together to try and get rid of this pollution, because at the end of that round, if all of you just pass because you've just got no more resource and no more money to do anything, and those disasters have not been satisfied, then you're in trouble. And the last game to finish it off I played is Imperial 2030. What a beast of a game. You guys know how much I love this game, and I played it again recently. Not too much to say other than I had a blast. Did I win? I did, yes, and I managed to manipulate as a bond owner and dishing out those bonds to make the most profits in the end. But it's always a delight. If you're not familiar with this one, I have got an overview and a run through as well, and it's an absolute must if you want something that's sort of geopolitical, not quite a war game. It is economic, but you've got all these military pieces you're moving around. Combat's really simple, but you have to manipulate all the other players and buy the certain bonds and invest at the right time and give your money to these nations, and then try and siphon out that money as well into your own personal supply. So lots to like here. I still rate this one really highly. Okay, what have we got then? Finally, some cool pictures from the hobby. Just a couple of little things to finish off here that I've spotted. On the first one, look at this image. So this, I like Ark Nova, and I've recently spoke about it as one of my top games for 2023 with the expansion Marine Worlds. But look at all these components. It's just a super photo to see how much effort has gone into this game and how much value you get, bang for your buck. What a fabulous game. If you've not played Ark Nova, you need to be giving this a go. And my final images, someone has upgraded, an older version of Food Chain Magnet here. What a fabulous job. Now, I've only brought this up because I know there's been a recent crowdfunding campaign for the deluxe version. It's very expensive and it's got a lot of pieces. So it's nice to see people are still doing up the older version here. I like the rustic look at this one. And that is pretty much my last month, folks. Lots going on and lots on the horizon as well of all these crowdfunding campaigns. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all soon.